Well, there are two big pieces of news that we need to talk about. This not only can change what Classic era servers are going to look like, but also obviously what Classic TBC servers are going to look like as well. The first one is Marcellian Online on YouTube posted an interview with John and Brian from Blizzard, the two guys who was at BlizzConline. They've been doing the rounds. They was interviewed by Mr. GM. You know, they've been keeping themselves busy. Now some juicy information come out of that. I'll put a link in the description if you want to go and watch the full interview, obviously, but I'm just going to talk about some of the highlights that came out of it. So the TLDR version, really. And then also there's been a brand new Blizzard survey. It's quite short and there's not that much in there that any of us are going to probably be surprised about, but it's about changes. It's about what the classic only, so vanilla only realms might look like. So some of the bits are like cross-server interactions, much like retail, possibly changing the PvP system. They don't go into specifics. They're being very broad, but just to gauge the audience and see how open they are to what I would consider a classic plus. Let me just give you the big highlights that I took away from the Marcellian interview. Good questions, but things we either already know or things we didn't need to even ask, you know, but they certainly put Brian and John through their paces. So one of the big ones for me, and I think the best place to start, is we know we're getting 2.4.3, but a lot of speculation's been going around about, well, all right, it's 2.4.3 patch state, but it still could be 2.0 itemization. You know, are the engineering goggles going to be in the game? This, that, the other. Well, there's some bits that was cleared up, or I'm not going to say cleared up, but alluded to. So they specifically said expertise will be in the game from launch. Now, obviously that makes sense. It makes sense to not go in with weapon skill and then have a major system change where we then switch over to expertise. Obviously that makes zero sense. We probably expected expertise to be there from the beginning. But he did actually say, you know, in hindsight, 2.4.3 would have been the state that the old devs back in the day would have wanted to release the game in, and said, you know, the balance changes that they made throughout. So this could be engineering goggles being added to make engineering more useful, the epic jewel crafting gems being added, the meta gems, even the meta gems that got added, they could all be there from the word go, or more than likely from what he said will be there from the word go. But he did specifically say gear sets. By that, I'm sure he means itemization in general. So the itemization they've already alluded to is going to be 2.4.3, which is brilliant. Obviously, that's exactly what the majority of us want. A lot of people do want to go 2.0, and it will make the content more difficult because the gear's worse and all of that. But 2.4.3, you've got a lot of stuff there that's now useful from Karazhan, which ordinarily wouldn't have been useful. Engineering goggles are a big one, and could actually change people's sort of pre-raid BIS list. And I had a sneaky suspicion 8-9 months ago when I first started doing the pre-raid BIS list that engineering goggles would be in, because it kind of makes sense. You can either see them as a catch-up mechanic or a reason to go engineering, because engineering, when you think about it, they don't really get anything which is anywhere near as powerful as like the tailoring sets, the leatherworking sets, the blacksmithing weapons. You know, they just don't get that big, oh, I need this big item, that's why I'm going engineering. So it makes sense for the heads to be there from the start. Because let's face it, they're only the equivalent power of one of the tailoring pieces or something like that. You know what I mean? It's nice that you get a meta gem socket, and, you know, they do come with their engineering bonuses if you like, but I'm quite pleased that it sounds like those engineering goggles are going to be in from the start. But while we're on that, one other really interesting thing that was said was about sort of the implementation of quest zones or quest hubs or quest lines, and the fact that they said they may gate some of that so it's relevant to the current chapter that we're in. So when he said chapter, I'm sure he meant phase. So in phase 1, this is just a big one that sticks out for me. Could be wrong, because obviously it was in the game right at the start back in TBC when it first launched, but the Cypher of Damnation quest line for the tier 5 attunement, that isn't relevant really to tier 4 content, because it's unlocking your attunement to tier 5. Now, I know at the end of it you kill Magferrodon, that's fine, and that is a tier 4 boss, but maybe things like Cypher of Damnation, maybe these attunement quest lines won't actually release until their current phase. Now, there's ways you can get ready for that, obviously, because you're going to need the revered factions to do your heroic trials following the Cypher of Damnation quest line in Shadowmoon Valley. If you're not sure what I'm actually talking about, there is a quest line in Shadowmoon Valley, obviously, where you kill a bunch of elementals, you do some long quest lines, it ends with a big group quest, there's some good rewards that you get from it as well, then you get an item in your mailbox following the completion of that quest to start heroic trials, which involve doing a few heroic dungeons, and then killing Magferrodon, you get a nice title, and now you're attuned to TK. Now the other quest line starts in heroic slave pens, and that's to go and kill Gruul and Nightbane, which then gives you your attunement to SSC. So those two quest lines, obviously it would make sense for them to be in from the start because they require killing tier 4 bosses. But the way he's saying he wants the quests, or certain quest zones, hubs, whatever you want to call them, to be relevant to the current patch, maybe you do your attunement in Phase 2 when Tier 5 actually launches. I mean, I don't know, it seems a bit daft because it's taken away quite a lot of stuff to do sort of now, you know, at launch, while we've got that long amount of time, well, what we're presuming to be a long amount of time of just doing Tier 4 content only, which is quite literally not even one day a week raiding to actually clear it all, for most people. You know, it's only 3 25-man bosses at the end of the day. You know, your 10-mans you probably do whenever. But I thought that was really interesting because if they did do it like that, it definitely would slow things down a bit. Then the big one that's going to make you all cheer before we start looking at the survey. Oh, actually, no, I've got two quite juicy ones, but the one big one, they've flat out said no world buffs. I'm sure they've said that before, but it was specifically asked to them, and the word Songflower was even mentioned. Will Songflower work? And apparently no, not past 63. Now we know there's cheesing methods where you can get somebody lower than 63 to activate and it gives it to, you know, the people around it or whatever, but odds are it's going to be disabled or whatever because they've said they don't want world buffs working past 63. So yay, happy days. Now this one sort of put me off a little bit, I'm not going to lie, as in they asked about layers. You know, are there going to be layers? We know there's going to be layers because there's no other way to manage it. They've said, yeah, there'll be layers. You know, it's as simple as that. And the layers are there to try and help prevent as longer as possible server queues, if you get what I'm saying. But then they spoke about layer hopping and the fact that people abused layer hopping and that there was changes made. These changes, even the way he explained it, don't really solve the problem. As in, you can still layer hop, but you get a short cooldown between layer hops, up to an hour if you overly abuse it. But you still can layer hop, so you still technically can just keep yourself on cooldown. Keep running around farming, keep yourself on cooldown. But what's really cool is they even quoted other players say, I can't find any herbs, I can't find any mines, you know, what's going on. And they've said they want to make targeted adjustments. So one of my worries was, obviously, is there going to be enough herbs to farm? Is there going to be enough mines to farm? You know, are you just going to be better off going in dungeons because they're guaranteed to be there? They've said they don't want to make sweeping changes, but they'll make targeted changes to specific issues on a case-by-case basis. So if we're struggling to get herbs, they'll increase the spawn timers. They'll increase the amount of possible locations that they can spawn, but they will do something, which I think is really good because, you know, it is an issue. It's more of an issue because of bots, and funny enough, that actually got mentioned, and they did say they heavily rely on the player base reporting these bots to get them banned, which is not great, but apparently they have been going hard. That was their words. They've been going hard on botting. Clearly not hard enough because the world's still completely rife with them, but they are trying to do something and do rely on the player base. So if you do see a bot, just report it. Obviously, make sure it's a bot first, you know, whispering him, tell him how good he looks. If he doesn't reply, then see you, mate. But I don't want to drag this on just for the sake of it. So they were the main points, really. Nothing much more interesting than that. There was a lot of other things brought up, but as I say, none that we're going to be bothered about or none that we don't already know about. Like, do we need to talk about drums? We know they're changing drums. I wish people would stop asking them the same questions. We want juicy information. And now, just for the next minute or so, I just want to literally just show you the new Blizzard survey as well that's gone out. It was only published about 10 hours ago, something like that, at the time of recording on Wowhead. So you can go and check it out on Wowhead anyway, but you might not have seen it. As I say, all I try and do is spread this information to as many people as possible, because I know you're as hyped as I am for TBC. So let's have a look. So the next set of questions I'll ask you about different types of servers. So, you know, these are now outlining in this part here what the two differences are between the servers. So Classic Era servers, these are current Classic servers that are maintained as Classic only servers. Smaller servers will be combined into server groups that allow players within the same server group to see each other. E.g., if Grobulus and Divite Delight were part of the same server group, Grobulus players may see Deviate players on their Classic Era server. These servers will not unlock the Burning Crusade expansion. I mean, that's fairly self-explanatory. And these servers may include minor or major changes to gameplay that would make them different from the experience in original World of Warcraft. Major changes. That's a very big word there. Now, the Burning Crusade, the Burning Crusade Classic servers. So these are current WoW Classic servers that will progress into the Burning Crusade, obviously. Your current server name will be maintained, e.g. if you're Atiesh in WoW Classic, you'll be Atiesh in TBC. Okay, yeah, makes sense. These servers have progression content patch releases, similar to the original release of the Burning Crusade. Yeah, we know that. That's the phases. We know we're getting 5 phases in TBC. These servers will have minimal changes to fix bugs and provide a smooth gameplay experience, but will overall create a very similar experience to the original Burning Crusade. Again, none of that's new, we know that, but they're just explaining what the servers are. So below are a few possible features of Classic Era servers. So now we're just talking about vanilla. Okay, I wish they called it vanilla, because it's Classic Era and Classic TBC. Technically, it's all Classic. It should have been vanilla, Classic Vanilla and Classic, or Classic WoW and Classic TBC. I don't know. Anyway, how do you feel about each of these statements? Allow you to interact with players. I need to look at this screen because I can't see it properly. Allow you to interact with players from other servers within the server group. Will not progress into the Burning Crusade and will be locked to the end of WoW Classic. May include new content that differs from the experience in original WoW. Alright, well yeah, so major changes, or changes in general, may include quality of life changes that differ from the experience in the original WoW, are set to WoW Classic. Don't get that last bit. Classic eras are set to WoW Classic. Well yeah, what else would they be set to? Tell me in the comments why I don't understand that comment. Classic era servers are set to WoW Classic. Well, of course they are. I mean, surely you're going to feel very positively about that, because that's exactly what the... If it said Classic Era servers are set to MOP, that... I don't know. Anyway, how would you feel if Classic Era servers allowed for significant changes or new features to be included into the game? So these servers could have changes that dramatically change from the original WoW experience. So, for example, layer in for high populations. I think they're overestimating the amount of people that are going to stay on Classic Era realms, if I'm honest. Changes to the PvP honor system. Now, okay, so I slightly step back from my previous comment of saying there's going to be no one playing them. If they made such dramatic changes that it almost morphs it into a Classic Plus, you know, so you're talking vanilla, but with arenas, but with proper honor system where you buy gear with honor and marks, you know, heroic difficulties of the raids, like stuff like that, or heroic versions of the dungeons, you know, if we're talking that dramatic, that it's actually not now vanilla anymore, or maybe they add not in a pre-patch state, not everything, but they add the 70 talent trees or something like that. I don't know, you know, wacky stuff that we wouldn't expect. Now that changes the game anyway, so it's not really Classic anymore, is it? You know, if you're going to change it that dramatically. So people might play it. I'll be honest with you, I would probably play it with substantial enough changes. But anyway. So, I mean, I would put very positive on that. Any changes that they can make, the better. Especially to the Classic Era servers. They're going to need spicing up and no one's going to play them. So, based on the information in the previous question, which version of Classic Era servers would you most be interested in playing on? So, Classic Era with no changes. Classic Era with quality of life changes. I mean, I wonder if a quality of life change would include something like dual spec in Classic. I mean, that would be quite interesting. Classic Era with significant changes. Or none of these. Alright. This is the last one. How do you feel about being able to decide whether your character stays in Classic Era or moves into the Burning Crusade Classic? So negatively, slightly negative, neutral, slightly positive, very positive. I mean, I don't know what they're trying to gauge there. As in, is this then maybe seeing what sort of response they get, and then maybe the paid character copy becomes a free character copy? Who knows? Don't really know what their intentions are. But that's it. I mean, that's some good news in certain areas. I wanted to make you aware of the Blizzard survey. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Okay, guys, while you're watching me for a minute or so, just prattling around with cards because I didn't know what to put on in the background, I just wanted to shout out to a couple of patrons who are supporting the channel over there. So Benjamin and Hackon, thank you guys, really appreciate your support. And then the slightly longer shout out for all of the YouTube members that have joined the channel. So either as a supporter or a legendary supporter, I appreciate you all equally. You really do help keeping me sat in this chair pushing out TBC content to just keep the hype train going. So big shout out to Loz Smith, Flick, Simo T, Alex Kocher, Cal Harbick, Marco Moccanigo, That Probes Guy, Gavi Scone, Florian Greenus, Ronald Gentry, Varswood, John Bird, Camille Devell, Peter Tavassalo, Corey Hart, John Miller, Plastic Paddy 623, Dylan Parker, Amori DeVic, Super Random Genius, Nillery, Corwis, B Stoker, Yabambi, Owidius, and Mike PW. Absolutely love all you guys. Thank you so much for either being a patron or joining on the YouTube channel. You get yourself a nice little logo as well, so when you comment on the videos, people can see that you are supporting me. Really appreciate it, guys. I'll see you on the next one.